Hey guys, welcome into Defining Relationships in Construction. Today we're going to be talking about how to resist becoming calloused. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's willing to join us from these four guys. We're just so appreciative. We know it's Saturday and you could be somewhere else with other people, and we're just thankful that you're willing to spend a little bit of time with us. So before we get started, to everybody that's watching, I want you guys to drop in the comments. Tell me something about who you are and something new you learned about this week in construction. Something new you learned about this week in construction. And so while you guys are filling in the comments, we're going to go ahead and talk to our guest with us. So, Mr. Walker, tell me something you learned this week that was new in construction.
Oh man, that's a good one. I have had a good learning experience this week, I guess you could say. I learned that taking the time to slow down and pay attention to the details is worth it. I think being a new guy, I got very caught up in trying to take more because I want to, one, prove myself, but two, like learn. I want to learn. And so I want to do more. I want to be exposed to more. But in doing that, I can only take on or do as much as I'm willing to do the right, to do it right.
Hmm.
Let me rephrase that. If you have so much on your plate that you're not going to be able to do it all to the best of your abilities, then it's not worth taking more until you can really hone in on doing one thing really good. And so I had a, like conversation of, or I kind of jumped into a conversation of my PM or senior PMs talking about, I missed like two things on the cost code, and not a big deal. Out of 91, I got 88 out of 91 right, but I should be getting 91 out of 91 right because that, goes into the budget. That shows we didn't submit it or anything, but it's like had to be checked. And so I realized I need to take a second to slow down and make sure everything's done right and detail oriented. And so I took that into writing contracts and making sure I had the little, insignificant looking to some people details in a quote and putting it in a contract, which normally, you kind of breeze through it and don't really think about what this could mean. But just taking a second to slow down, be more detailed, think through things a little bit more is what I learned this week.
That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. I think I can learn something from there. That's a good point. Appreciate you sharing that. Mr. Renee, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, so might get a little technical, but I learned, well, first of all, my job title is field utility coordinator, and about 75% of my job is to mark and identify uh, our water assets for other contractors that are going to be excavating in the area so they don't blow up our water mains and stuff. So every now and then there's a capital improvement project or there's like a main addition or something going on where they're adding new water and sewer mains. Well, I learned that even though a contractor has installed a brand new water main or sewer main or anything, backfilled it, asphalt, everything is done, it's still not always immediately signed over to the water system's responsibility yet. That there's something, and maybe you guys could help me out with that, but there's some kind of litigation afterwards where it's signed over to, for example, San Antonio water system where I work, and then it becomes our responsibility. So, which is important for my job because we cannot mark assets that do not belong to us because we don't have the as built or a red lined as built, and so we don't really know exactly what's in the ground quite yet until the contractor releases us that information. So I learned that because I made a mistake and I marked something, or I helped somebody mark something that wasn't signed over yet. And it didn't get hit, thank God. That would have been horrendous, but but that's a no-no. so so yeah, that's one thing I learned. New.
Well, how was that process? I'm sure that was, as you talked to us before, Renee, about how being the new guy and kind of in a leadership role, I'm sure that was a little bit of nerve going through that this week, wasn't it?
Oh, totally. It was so hard because I have here we are. We're water and sewer workers, right? And we have a boring contractor they're just trying to do their bore and
Right.
cross this street. They have nothing to do with us, and I'm over here telling them like, hey, I can't mark this because I don't it doesn't belong to us yet. And he's like, well, I'm gonna cross next Monday and it's Friday, and where's it at? I don't want to hit it. And it was really, really hard, and to talk to all the necessary people to get the information. And we had guys quitting, and now they knew, but oh man, it was a nightmare. But we got it under control, and it's good.
That's cool. I have to pick your brain about that more often. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting side that I'm gonna admit that I have not a lot of knowledge about. But our last one, but not the least, Mr. Jesse Hernandez. What's up, Jesse?
What's going on, y'all? Good morning. Well, I guess I just learned that Rene was complicit in stealing utilities. No, I'm joking. There's two big ones, and I guess I'll take the really nice one. Well, there's a group of us, Jennifer and Adam and Kirby and Alicia, Sean Moran, and Stephanie Brown joined us this time. So we have this group where we're working on building our vulnerability and building our listening skills, or our ability to ask questions. And when we started it was a crazy idea that Kirby planted it in my head, and I was like, oh, let's make this happen. So we did it. And just yesterday afternoon, we had a super amazing experience, like the whole group did. And it's kind of drawing us back together, pulling us in tighter, deeper appreciation, all of these things, right? All of these woo-woo fluffy things.
Yeah.
And so the two lessons were, one, if you have an idea, just put it into play. Like I could have, because when I thought of the idea, I was like, ooh, people are going to think this is dumb. Nobody's going to want to join. But we did it. And here we are on the third or fourth cycle, and the experience is deepening. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, like, all of these people are construction workers, and it is a skill that we all need. And these people, and from my opinion, they represent the best of the best in construction in terms of the way they treat people, the way they carry themselves. And if they're the best and it's still a value add to them, then there's a big need or a big opportunity out there to help build that skill set.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's awesome, because I think on the other side of vulnerability, and kind of like you're talking about the mushy, the gushy stuff, it's you grow. Like, literally, it can transform you. And it's really uncomfortable, especially as men. I mean, as four guys here, getting uncomfortable. Like, Jesse, I just openly cried on your podcast, and that was very uncomfortable for me. I had lots of fear after that. I'm just being honest. That's a fear I had. And it's just like, that's who I am. I'm pretty vulnerable in person, and Walker's probably used to it. Tells me to shut up a lot, but
No,
I know. But I'm just saying, it's one of those things in life, guys. Just guys, gals, it doesn't matter what you are. Like, if you can just say that I'm going to try to be vulnerable and lock in with this person and listen and be vulnerable, man, you can just grow. I love that. Jesse, thanks for sharing that, man.
Mm-hmm.
So do I have to be a part of this? Do I have to share something new I learned this week? Because I didn't think about that.
You do.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I'll put myself on the spot. Something I learned new this week is, as I'm like Rene, developing my leadership skills and getting thrown into new situations, I'm starting to learn that I don't want to say the pressure, but just the amount that a superintendent has on his plate every single week of what he has to get done to be successful. We have a really good superintendent, and man, I would just say what he's a masterful at is communicating and following up. If you can communicate and follow up, obviously he knows how to build it, but he communicates and follows up, and I just see him constantly. Hey, hey, we talked about this earlier today, but did you get a chance to follow up? Did you see that point? Hey, did you go check on this guy? Did you go over there? I'm just like, am I supposed to? He's like, yeah, I need you to go check on him, go communicate, go follow up. So that's something new I learned this week as I'm kind of growing. I know that's not as good as being all mushy and gushy and vulnerable like Mr. Jesse here, but it's something. So guys, let's go ahead. Let's jump into the comments. We got people that are excited to be here, and we have someone that's close and near dear to all of our hearts. It's Miss Jennifer Lacey.
Right.
She said, I learned that silence is powerful. Embracing that silence can allow space for deeper connections. Walker, we talked about that this week.
We
You
did.
remember that?
Yeah. No. It's the so we were doing a contract negotiation, and it it was one of those things where I guess we didn't communicate everything clearly. They thought that we would negotiate a little bit more than we did, which we couldn't. It was more a legal department. Like, no, we're not going to take that. And I'm not going to go into the details, but pretty much we sat on it, the call, for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes in just complete silence, like no one talking, nothing happening. And I'll go in, and it's awkward. It's kind of funny because awkward silence can be funny at times, but you're just kind of sitting there like, what are we gonna do? And my senior PM, after I walked down, I was like, and the first thing he said, he started laughing. He goes, "Did you hear me typing like during the silence?" I goes, "No, I didn't hear you typing. There's nothing going on." He goes, "Yeah, I was doing some work. I was just letting people sit there because that's a pretty powerful technique that you can use when you're negotiating, because someone's going to want to fill the silence, or they're going to try to give you something that you didn't ask for, etc. Kind of going into it." He goes, "I don't." And he even said, "He goes, I don't mind speaking first. I don't mind being the first one to speak after it, but I want people to sit there for a little bit. Even if it means like I have to go in there and communicate again." But it was really interesting to see just how much silence can make someone feel uncomfortable or want to talk or give away or fill it without really thinking about what you're going to say. Because if the other party that you're talking with fills it with giving away something or admitting something about the contract that they would be willing to like give up or accept or whatnot, then you just kind of have a jump on them in negotiation, I guess you could say, which it's not a bad thing. It's not taking advantage of it, but like it's give and take, and it's just trying to get someone to give. So it's I don't know. It was cool to see. It was cool to be a part of.
Yeah, we talked about that, but I'm still trying to figure out how Jesse and Renee, they must have some brain like computing. Slow down to go. How did y'all comment on that? And we're live streaming. I don't know how he does that. It's some master power, but we just slowed down, and now we're about to go real fast. So I like that. We also had Miss Amy Campbell. She's coming from Durham, North Carolina, working in field operations management on a $489 million project. That's pretty cool. That's awesome. I appreciate you spending time with us. And then we have Mr. Adam Hoots. What's up, Adam? This week he learned about the word. Oh my gosh, someone help me there. How do you say that?
Aggrandizement.
Aggrandizement. Thank you. I butchered it. That's what Jesse, do you know what that word means?
Yes, aggrandizement refers to the act of making something larger or greater. It specifically refers to inflating something or making someone appear more important or powerful than they really are. So like the short definition is Jesse.
How did I know you're going to say something like that?
I didn't get that until after Renee. Okay, I
man.
understand. All right. And then Miss Amy, she gave us a really cool comment here. She said, learned this week about the power of a collective investment. Asking and receiving. I knew of a need with one of my field crew for supporting during a difficult time and took action. I've had people from so many areas of the industry donate and send their well wishes. Putting the mission into writing and asking and being willing to receive is important for teamwork. I love that. And Miss Amy, I remember you actually reaching out to us about a coworker of yours, and that's really cool to see how people just kind of band together in this industry to help others. I appreciate you sharing that. We have Miss Kirby Coates. She said that she learned that when you sit back and listen with silence, like Jen mentioned, you learn things you wouldn't have expected. Kind of going back to a different side of what Walker's talking about, just that silence of just being able to listen, kind of tying into what Jesse said. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, guys. I know we have a lot more comments. We're gonna get back to it. So I kind of just wanted to set the stage, because when I started to figure out what this topic was going to be, I talked about how to resist becoming calloused, that second point, if you can see it on the screen. And there's a difference between it. There's a difference between calluses and callous. And so I'm going to go really quickly, the best and quickest way I can so we can get started. And so calluses is what you get from playing a guitar, or working out, or running. We know we got a few guys that work out in here, the bottom two, Mr. Walker, Renee. Jesse and I are trying to get there, but man, these guys are probably got calluses. They'd probably just eat it for breakfast. And then we know a guy, Mr. Steve Turner. He just probably has callous feet, man. Just
Oh
running
yeah,
200
his whole
miles.
feet is a callus.
Yeah, exactly. He knows a little bit about this, and it's the product of working hard and having perseverance. I thought that was interesting. So as we work harder, we lose the physical sensitivity. I think that's pretty cool. And then when we talk about callous, it is the insensitivity to emotions. I think of our industry is known for being brash, tough, and kind of growing through or just walking through their career. And over time, we become extremely callous. And I can see that. A lot of times we start to harden our hearts towards others. And I say we as in, guys, I'm coming on year 2 now, full time after college. And I see how if I'm not working towards not becoming callous, that I can do it in a day of like, it's a tough day. It's been rough. It's been hard. And I'm starting to harden my heart. How do I untrigger that? And that's what we're gonna be talking about today. How do we walk through life? How do we walk through the job site? How do we be the best self, as Miss Jennifer Lacey says? How do we show up? And I just think it's been really cool for us to walk through that. So does that make any sense? Is that crystal clear, or is that clear as mud? What do you guys think?
I think it makes perfect sense, and I'm really excited to have that conversation because I feel like I really struggle with that. So to try to refrain from becoming callous, shoot, I bet once we talk about it, I'm gonna be like, man, I am callous. So I'm really interested to hear this conversation.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate that you're willing to share that, but two, be on this journey with us. So, guys, the first thing we thought about whenever we're talking about what is those steps to become, I guess we'd say, uncalloused. That's the CALLOUS. And one of the first things we put up, and one of the things we thought was empathy. If you're able to walk with empathy, you're able to show that you care for others, you're tuned in, and you understand the feelings of another. And oftentimes I think for a lot of people in construction, when they think of empathy or when they think of this, they just think, man, I ain't going to be emotional. Man, that's stupid. I don't want to do that. Well, what is that? I have to care about someone's emotions. And it's like, man, we just got to get harder. We got to just get through it. And I can admit we can probably be too soft at times, but we can also be really hard on people. Like, I'll give an example. There's people that I've noticed whenever they stop showing up to the foreman's meeting, a scheduled meeting, something usually is going on in that person's life. And so he doesn't show up because he's just behind on work or she's behind on work and they're leading their trade partner. But oftentimes, whenever I go after the scheduled meeting, just one-on-one, I go ask, hey, you doing all right? I can tell there's something different about you. You're usually not like this. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. And they tell me about something they're going through. And I'm like, whew, like, holy cow, I understand that's a hard thing that, you don't want to bring up in front of people. Is it okay if I go talk to our superintendent about it? And it's just something like that. Having the ability to know someone's going through something, if you just take the approach that you're not just worried about work. And I think that's what we're worried about, driving the schedule. We got to have these dates right. We got to hit this. If we don't hit it, your butt's on the line and all this stuff, instead of just going, hey, I care about you. I really do. I want to know what's going on in your life so that you can show up and be your better self. And so when that comes to mind, when we think about empathy, I want to ask the three guests on the call, what comes to your mind when you think of empathy?
Who wants to start it?
I'll go first. So I had to do some research because I was accused of not being empathetic. And so my understanding of empathy is being able to connect with what the other person is experiencing or going through. And so I've lived a pretty checkered life. And I have a broad range of experience. And I think that's an advantage that I have, in that because I've done so many different things and, behaved in so many different ways, I can understand what people are going through when they're going through a divorce, or when they're dealing with the law, or when they're experiencing immense success, or when they're feeling regret for life. Like, I can connect with that because I've been there. Now, what I learned from that accusation of me not having empathy was there was a confusion between sympathy and empathy. Like, yes, I do not have sympathy. That is 100% accurate. Like, if you need somebody to tell you it's okay, don't worry, it's not your fault, that ain't me. You're calling ask Rene, he knows. Like, I don't have a lot of sympathy. Empathy, I do. So again, for me, empathy is connecting with the person and understanding where they're coming from. That's it. That's my thought.
Yeah, so mine, I think mine's similar. My answer too is, I mean, really, it just comes down to, my book is being able to put yourself in someone's shoes or situation, imagining yourself in their shoes or their situation. And kind of, I guess maybe I might be jumping the gun, but that's where I feel like I struggle with, because I will put them, or I will imagine myself in their situation, or I have been in their situation, or currently am in their situation, especially like with my team members. And thank God we kind of pretty much primarily work alone, because I feel like I might slip up or something by saying something offensive. But I feel like some of my team members, we've came from the same trench, and we have it way better now, but they're still complaining about our current situation, even though it was worse 3-4 years ago. And I really struggle with being able to, I don't know what's the word, maybe sympathize or empathize with that mindset. And maybe that goes into callousness, willing to be corrected on that, or talk about it. But yeah, I feel like maybe I'm on the side of Jesse's side, where I know where you came from, but to get sympathy from me is really hard, especially if we've been in the same spot.
Right. I think, Walker, we'll come to you too, but I just want to kind of, based off y'all's two responses, there's a difference in sympathy and empathy. I'm glad you defined that for us, Jesse, because I'm not talking about catering to the whims of people that, they just complain. There are people on job sites that just complain, but what I've often noticed is I usually don't respond, and I just listen and give them something to allow them to say something. And most of the times they're done, I'll just say, okay, well, I appreciate you telling me that. I'll talk to you later if I see you. And I just do that. That way, that kind of continue to feed, because if there are people that all they're going to do is just complain. And I'm not talking about that. What you guys set that up good by understanding. You can understand someone and what they're going through personally. Like, if someone's going through like something hard, you can tell, but don't cater to the whims of people. At least that's what I think. So Walker, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think y'all all said it, very well. I mean, I don't have too much to add from it, but it's just the ability to just even sit with someone, and like, you don't have to solve their problem. You don't have to pat them on the on the shoulder and say, oh, okay, whatever. But even just the ability to sit there with someone, be there with them, and you don't even have to say a word. You can empathize with them that way, of just being there. Like, I might not understand what you're going through, because I might have never gone through that before, but I can be here for you, and I can empathize with you,
That's right.
without having to solve everything, and just
Right.
sitting. And I think that's another way of having empathy, and not necessarily sympathy, but it's a balance.
Yeah, that's good, Walker. I mean, we don't have the silver highlights like Jesse, so we may not have the entire experience. But I love how, bringing it back to what Jesse said, was, he went through a lot, so he can understand a lot. I have also a guy on my job site. I'll say he's even older than Jesse by a good decade or so, and he talks about his life. He's very open to it, and he tells me, Davis, I'm so proud of you for working through those things and just trying to understand and not having to go through the failures that I went through, because it brought him tremendous pain. But then he also says, I say that, but then I also think it's made me the best person for this situation. And it's hard to kind of unravel that. How do you not go through something where, maybe get in trouble with the law, or maybe having the pain of a divorce? Like, that's hard. That's hard work, and that's hard to be on, the pressure. But how do I not go through that and kind of grow myself in a different area and still try to understand? That's like, that's that line we're kind of trying to navigate through. And I go back to Walker's point. You're right. Empathizing and just showing up in construction and just being willing to go, hey, I'm locked in. Like I know you do, Walker. You're going to pay attention to that person that's talking to you. You're not going to be on your phone looking down, trying to solve something. If someone has an issue and you don't know how to fix it, but you just want to empathize, I know you're going to listen. You're going to look them in the eye, and you're going to show that you care. And just doing that in construction, if you do that to someone that's having a hard day, they're going to think highly of you, because most of the time, everybody's so distracted. Everybody's looking at, how am I going to solve this? What are we going to do that? So as we kind of,
how many times have you walked past someone in the hallway or on the job site and just been, hey, how are you? And the other person's good, and that's it. But it's if you can stop, if you know them well. I mean, if you've never met them before in your life, you don't really know what anything about them. But if it's someone that you see enough to know there's a change in kind of their demeanor or their attitude, I mean, then that's the ability. Hey, like how are you? How actually are you? Don't just expect that, oh, good, and then walk away. I mean, you can stop and actually talk to someone about their day or their life.
And that's good too, because I think about on my job site in New Orleans, like people used to always just say, man, we're good. I'm like, how are you really? And they'd go, well, and then that's when people start. There's always this one guy too. He's the controls guy. Don't give me the controls. I don't know enough about that. I'm still trying to unpack everything that controls guys do. But he always goes, man, another day in paradise. And I look at him, I'm like, what? Like, really? Another day in paradise? And then I've actually, Walker, I took that step this week because he looked like no one was around him, wasn't as busy. I said, how do you really feel? Man, just talking about having a conversation, what he's going through. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like your good point. You take time. I may not know that guy all that great, but what he's willing to share, because I asked another question after that, it's really cool to think about. If you just take time to slow down and just talk to people, you're going to grow a lot. So let's go into what our comments are saying. We have Miss Amy Campbell. She said something pretty cool. It's hard to not have a hardened heart. It's really hard to go through this industry and not, if you've been in it for years and have a great experience, it's hard not to have a hardened heart. But being willing to show up wholly in the arena and not go sit in the stadium seats is a mission that is not for the weakest spirit. It is called a book, Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I'm excited about that because I actually got gifted that book, and I'm going to read it now because Miss Amy said that. I've been on my shelf for a little while, but I think that's pretty cool. And it looks like, Jesse, have you read that book before?
Oh, yes. So I was another accusation. It wasn't an accusation. This was like for real. I was told that my problem was vulnerability, that I was not vulnerable. So I'm like, oh, well, let me find out what the hell that means. So I did a little bit of research, found a TED Talk by Brene Brown. And I was like, oh, that's a whole nother level. And I ended up reading 3 of her books. And turns out the person that told me I was not vulnerable, she was right. And it led me down this path to now, right? Just trying to learn. The most significant thing I took from it was that my biggest gap was, and I don't think it's just mine, I think it's some unknown LinkedIn users out there have the same issue, is being graceful with myself.
Yeah.
If I can't do that, that's where I got to start.
Yeah, that's good. That'll make me start to think there. I think about how I used to treat myself and my thoughts. It's just like, dude, you're beating yourself up over stuff that doesn't even matter. Like, I just think about that going through school. Like, be able to give yourself a little bit of grace. You're not perfect. You never will be. And if you keep trying to say like this perfect standard that you're never going to achieve, you're just going to walk through life just always beating yourself up. That's really cool. And then we talked, Miss Jennifer Lacey. She said, if we recognize that something stops having meaning, we need to reflect why. I think that's powerful in itself. Like the power of why, of just trying to figure something out. Why does this work? Or why does it not work? That allows you to sit in your thoughts a little bit and to understand the context or meaning, or like she says, recognizing why is it not having meaning. I like that a lot. Kirby said to surround yourself with people that make effort not to spin down the negative spiral, which is the easier spiral. They are treasures. That's pretty cool. I like that. It is oftentimes easier to go down that negative spiral. And I'm going to give kudos to Kirby. She's now not a unknown LinkedIn user. So good job, Kirby. You're part of it. We know who you are now. And then Mr. James Cable said, empathy involves putting yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to understand the why and the reaction. I love that. He just tied right back in to Miss Jennifer Lacey. So we're going to keep moving. We're going to go to kind of our next point. And it's talking about submitting to something bigger than ourselves. And so I'm going to reference this in two different ways, but and it's going to feed into our third point. And just tell me, guys, if I'm not making any sense, tell me to stop. I'll try to re-explain it. I actually thought about this before, just really quick, off topic. You guys ever seen like NCIS or all the cop and crime shows where they have that guy with like the whiteboard and like 50 different push pins with yarn everywhere? I feel like that's how I try to navigate my thoughts, and I hope that it somehow leads to that end point where people are like, okay, that actually makes sense. So if it doesn't, just know that's where my brain's at. So something to submit to that's bigger than ourselves. I had a football coach. He used to always say, guys, a lot of the reasons why people come and show us or come to this football event is because they want to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. And he talked about how football isn't easy. Football, if everybody said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And it's a part of being a team and giving up yourself so that the team is better. And so when he talked about submitting to something bigger than ourselves, he talked about the betterment of the team. Man, I should not have drank a Topo Chico while I'm talking. Oh my gosh.
That's bubbly. That's
yeah,
dangerous.
keep on burping. So just forgive me for that. I'm gonna stop doing that. But I want to take it back to a different point. Instead of it being to a betterment of the team, I'm not going to go too far into this, but for me, this is going to tie into number 3, our next point. It's my faith. Something bigger than ourselves. Whether you have a faith, I'm not trying to just push, what I know and what I believe, but my faith, something a whole lot bigger than me. And I think getting back in tune with my Lord and Savior is what's helped me in my walk of kind of what Jesse was talking about, forgiving myself and having a little bit of grace, because I was so hard on myself. But to submit to something bigger than yourself, it allows you to know that, I'm not this perfect person, and no one on this earth actually is perfect. No one actually knows everything. No one actually can answer everything you're going through. But it allows you to go, you know what? I believe that you created something and there's a purpose in my life and you're using me for your good. And I'm going to allow you to just to help me walk through it. And I just want to know, what is something for y'all? What is that thing to you? What is something that you submit to that's bigger than yourself, that kind of drives you and it motivates you to walk through your daily life?
Do tacos
Crickets.
count?
Tacos. Yeah, there you go.
Love me some tacos.
I'll go first on this one. I think I'm right there with you. Is my faith in God as well? Because one of the major foundational ideas in the Bible is that we don't always know. You don't know the end always. You don't understand sometimes, but you lean on God's understanding and God's wisdom. And I actually cheated and prepared a little note for that when you said this is a little cheat sheet. But it's funny that you bring this up, because last night's Bible study, we were watching a sermon from Pastor Gene Kim, and he was talking about the destruction of anger and pride, how that it's an infection that causes division and really destroys relationships. And one takeaway I like is Proverbs 17, verse 14. It says, the beginning of strife is like letting out water, so quit before the quarrel breaks out. And like we were talking about empathy earlier, that right there, the way I see that, he made the analogy that anger and pride is like water from a faucet, or even like a floodgate. You open the floodgate, all the water comes out, and whatever's downhill of that water is going to get wet. And even though you close the floodgate, there's still that little bit of water that comes out, and it still has to run its course all the way down, and you cannot undo that. So when I think about trying to be empathetic, and even when I perceive somebody's situation is not as hard as it was or is now, I shut my mouth, because I can allow myself to get angry or frustrated with this person and say something I'm going to regret that I cannot ever take back. I can do that, or I can choose to lean on my faith and that God's wisdom is bigger than my own.
That's right.
And there's a ton of wisdom in there that applies to all different kinds of situations. And I feel like that really, really motivates me and helps me to make wiser decisions and not let that flood water ruin my relationships.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate you sharing that. I think about that. I had an opportunity this week, and I talked about something else in a proverb. I didn't tell my superintendent exactly what I was about to say, but I talked about how oftentimes, what is it? It's that how you start conflict is with a harder word, but with a calm word allows people to be at ease. And just talked about that. Like, so oftentimes in life, pride is when strife and conflict starts. And I think about that with my fiance. Like, whenever I don't agree with what she says, or I didn't like how she said that, that's pride in me that's saying that she knows, or that she doesn't align with what I believe. And that has nothing to do with her. I mean, it's just life. I don't agree with everything Walker, Renee, or Jesse has, or anybody else in the comments. But how can I tell myself, Dave, just shut up for a second and listen and understand that you don't know it all. Like, there's other people that have wisdom that are trying to maybe speak in your life and teach you something. So how can you just sit there and be able to listen to people? And I think about that in construction. So many people just say what's on their mind. So many people just won't sit there and have a chance to listen and reflect and take that and then bring something positive, instead of having that that sense of just going into that negative spiral that kind of Kirby talked about. But what about you, Walker and Jesse? Y'all have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Davis. You and I are aligned on a lot of things, but I'm right there with you. I guess getting vulnerable. It's Jesus done so much for my life, and the Lord's so good. But even like beginning of college, it wasn't ever that. It wasn't always that way. It's where he was in my life, but it was never like that's the one thing. Until my freshman year, when my parents got in a really bad wreck. The day before, I knew something happened. I know I brought this up before, but like I knew something happened the night of, when I kept calling and they wouldn't answer. There's like no answer. My mom's phone went straight to voicemail. My dad's phone just rang and rang, or maybe it's the other way around. But either way, I was like, I for some reason I knew something happened. And so I was like, Lord, you got to give me something. Like I can't do anything right now. Just I need some peace, and just supernatural. I never had it before like that. Peace came over me, and I just went to bed. I woke up the next day, started doing my morning routine, doing my devotion, and I got to Proverbs 20:24. So a person's steps are directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand their own way? That was the last thing I read. I did the 1 Year Bible. I got to Proverbs 24, read that, closed it. Like split second, my pages touched in my Bible. The millisecond the pages touched for it to close, my phone started ringing on my desk. And it was an unknown number. It's like, I don't know what that is. And I answered the phone, and it was like a voice. I had no idea who the voice was. Like, who's speaking? I asked that 3 times, and finally it goes, Walker, it's your dad. And I was like, Dad, it's like, what happened? It's like, here we go. I'm about this day is about to start, and I just read a person's steps are directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand your own way? And it's like, that is, the Lord is telling me, hey, I got you. Like, this is something's about to happen. This is about to go on, but I got you. I direct it. It is directed by me. You will not understand what you are about to go through, but sit back and trust me. And from there, like, just started a upward spiral and downwards at times, of just the Lord doing so much in my life, and putting Davis and I together, and you and Jesse and Renee and us together. It's just these opportunities and things that never happen if you don't sit back and just let Him rule and let Him guide your life. And that is how bigger than yourself, I guess, is what I submit to. It's just the Lord's will, because it's better, it's good. It's not going to make sense, but if you sit back, let Him direct your path, then you won't go wrong.
That's cool. I know you haven't told me to that extent the detail of it, so I'm learning something new about you. I think that's awesome.
There you go.
What about you, Jesse?
There's a lot more to it, dude, but that was one that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's the opportunity to escort people through self-discovery. Another way to I think of it is serving others to the degree that they will allow me to.
Yeah.
I think, well, I know when I'm walking on that path, I mean, clearly I'm here with you guys, right? Y'all are amazing. And turns out my baby brother, Rene, is pretty darn amazing himself.
Right.
And that's recorded, Rene, so that counts. And so when I'm walking in service to others and I'm sharing the gifts and talents that I've been blessed with, what I recognize is that I attract or end up being around like ballers, amazing people that are doing the same thing out there in the world. Like all the people in the chat, right? Like they're gamers. They got it going on. They got major responsibility, major influence. And I credit like that audience or this group of people that are in my life now to the fact that I'm living a life of service, or working to live a life of service, where there was a long time where I was just serving myself.
Yeah.
And the people, the experiences I was having at the time were not like this. And so to the question about people want to be a part of something greater, I think because I'm walking in service, that signals to people that there is a greater purpose, and it keeps growing from there.
Yeah, that's good too, because not even if you have the same faith as us, but you can take that and apply it and still have purpose in your life with, for the team of just like construction. Like you can be able to submit to a greater cause that's, guys, this job is not about Davis Hambrick. It's not about Brassfield and Gorey. It's not about making this federal. It's about delivering this successfully to our client. And you can take that a whole different ways. I apply it personally so that I can do it in construction, so that when it gets hard, when I don't want to be there, I realize, man, there's hundreds of guys and gals that are out there striving, working their butt off to make it. If they can do it, and if they're still busting their butt, they're picking up my slack, and that allows me to get back in line with them. But I love what you said, because it's so true, Jesse, talking about you serve others to the point that they allow you. Like, I don't mean just you. I'm talking about in life. Like, I think back to whenever I tried to maybe have an encouraging word from my friends, or try to speak into their life, and they weren't, I say they weren't really listening, but it just didn't click. And I would, beat myself up about it, again, about my thoughts. But I'd beat myself, why is he not listening to me? Or why is this not working? If he just do this or that. But it's like, if you just allow yourself to serve to the ability that someone else lets you, that's transformational in your own life, to say, you know what, I poured into them, and really it's up to them from that point, because I know that I tried. I know that I still love them no matter what, but I'm still going to be there. And if they don't, that's okay. But I try to know that at night I can sleep at night, because, hey, I tried to be there for them. I just love how you said that, because a few years ago for me, I've just been, just spiraling. Why is this not working? Why is, like, just again, going back to that why. I mentioned earlier how why is good, but don't let it control your thoughts like I did. So kind of moving into our next point, having a morning routine. I'm going to say the point, but I'm going to navigate around to it and come back. I'm going to try to do my little podcast host and see if I can work back to it. But when I think about having a morning routine, I'm going to set the stage. So I'm reading this book now. Actually, I'm almost finished with it. It's called Winning the War in Your Mind by Craig Rochelle. He's a pastor, but he's also, if you don't have this faith, it's all right. He has a podcast called the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast. It is phenomenal. He doesn't, he uses a little bit of faith, but he uses a lot of leadership, what's going on in modern day psychology too. But he just is phenomenal about and masterful about leadership. And so when I think about this book, I was going through, man, a lot of what he was what he was talking about, and at the end, it got to this point where it's talking about the brain. And I just think that it's pretty cool. The brain is something I don't know much about, but I got one, so I can at least comment a little bit about that. So it says your brain is rewiring itself all the time, and so we think that neurologists used to believe a few decades ago that your brain didn't change after adolescence. We now know that that's not true. There's this phrase or this term they use. It's called neuroplasticity. Walker, don't laugh at me. I'm trying to sound educated. I'm really not. It says basically we can sculpt our brains over time just like our muscles. And so just like Walker and Rene, oh, look at that gun. All right, Jesse. Look like those guys that are working out, whenever you work out, you're physically having micro tears in your muscles, and over time, once it heals, they grow and they get bigger, and so you're able to lift more weights. I'm sure Mr. Steve Turner has got some iron legs because he runs, 200 miles, and so he knows a little bit about that. So in the same way, applying that to your brain, I'm not saying you're tearing your brain, but neuroplasticity talks about how rewiring your brain. Does that make sense? We're good there. Everybody understand that? Okay, so I can keep going. All right, so going back to your brain. And rewiring itself all the time. Each time you think a thought, it's easier to think that thought again. And so when I go into the negativity, to going into that negative spiral that Kirby talked about, each time you think that thought, it's easier to think that thought again. And so you can create this rut of, man, I'm just stuck in this rut. I'm going to be negative. I'm going to be negative. I'm going to be negative and negative. And then you go to that spiral, and you're just going to show up the rest of your life being negative and negative, negative, negative. He talks about your rut as a negative thing, but you got to build a trench under that to take out that rut. To now we're going to start to build off in positivity. But he talked about how there's these two doctors. I'm going to try to wrap it up, guys, really quick. Is the one doctor named Dr. Andrew Newberg, and I'm not going to try to pronounce everything he knows about brains because I would just be sitting here fumbling with words, and the comments would be just mocking me. But
like that word that Adam sent in
I was
chat earlier.
Yeah, I'd have to go to speech therapy to understand what that means. But he says he goes, how God changes your brain. He's written books, he's written articles, but he talks about how prayer is like a physical workout for your brain. I think that's so cool. And then there's this other doctor, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, talked about switching on your brain. And she wrote something in that. She said, 12 minutes of daily focused prayer over 8 weeks can change the brain to the extent that it can be measured on a brain scan. I just think that's unreal. Like the fact that there's science around knowing prayer. And again, guys, I'm not trying to push my faith. This is what I believe. And I'm going to tie this in. I promise. It's going to tie into the morning routine. So that if you're like, Davis, can you stop talking about, Christianity and your belief and your faith? Just hang in there with a little bit longer. The reason I mention all these things is because prayer is shown that it increases brain activity in areas associated with social interaction, compassion, and sensitivity to others. And I think about just in my life and in my faith and in my walk, just how I used to be, that negative spiral, that each time you think the thought, it's easier to think that thought again. And I just constantly beat myself up about it. OCD, analytical. And I still can be like that. Walker's probably going to smile over that, but I can still be like that. But I'm slowly gaining and walking out of that. And I'm learning how to socially interact with people. Not that I didn't before, but guys, this would have terrified me 2 years ago. This would have terrified me. Oh, we got like maybe 10, 15 people maybe watching us, or, oh, we got a comment. I'm going to be sweating. I can't do this. Like I didn't have compassion towards others. I was this hard, callous guy, and I definitely didn't have any empathy towards another person. So I say all that because my morning routine is I wake up, I spend time in my Bible, doing devotional and prayer and worship. And that itself has allowed me to come to the job site as my better self. It's allowed me to come there and be my best self. So when I know something goes wrong, I've been disciplined to get up a little bit earlier, a lot earlier, and spend time getting myself, my personal space, my thoughts to the right spot so that when I get to that job site, whatever happens, I'm going to submit to something bigger than myself, but I'm also going to help this team in a way that, man, I know I'm going to be okay. We're going to get through this day. No matter what, I'm here for these people. And that's just helped me in my life. People like to say, we had a guy named Alex Willis that came on our podcast, and he talked about meditation. For him, it was he spent a little time in prayer, then went and worked out. For some people, it's I'm going to go work out and then spend time in quiet and then maybe listen to a podcast. And so it's getting yourself in the right mindset, the right framework to go to work. And Jason Schroeder talked about it in his book called Elevating Construction Superintendents. He talked about how whenever we come home from work too, we have to spend the time to not bring what we took from work to our family, to our loved ones. And so I just think about this. I think about this morning routine and how much it's helped me. What are your guys' thoughts? I know I just took forever to explain that. Hopefully that made some sense. But what do you guys think about your morning routine? And just share with me. Do y'all have one? Do you not? What do you think?
I'll go first. I actually love this question because I finally get to flex on something. So I got my alarm right here.
Oh
So
my goodness,
Woof.
3:45. Yeah, I
every
get up at 4.
day it's 3:45 Monday through Friday and 4:15 on the weekends.
Mm,
And because my day at work I start at 7. So 3:45. Well, actually it starts the night before because I have my pre-workout already mixed. I have my clothes for the gym already ready, set out, and everything I need to take to the gym, it's already in a bag, mixed in the fridge. So I wake up, walk, drag myself out of bed to that bag with the pre-workout, drink it, and straight to the gym. 3:45. Usually I get there about 4. Then I work out. It's a good, usually an hour and a half workout, and then I come home, take a shower, and go to work. And that has been game changing for me big time because I caught myself. Oh man, must have been 2.5 years ago when I had just got the leak detection job. I mastered that job pretty quickly. I won't say mastered it, but I got good at it fairly quickly. Other than like more so than any other job I've ever had before. I picked it up really fast. I really enjoyed it, but I got complacent fast too. So I picked it up. I was killing it, and then I was like, okay, this is kind of easy, and I got complacent, and I stopped working out. I stopped doing all kinds of things, and I got on the 75 hard challenge where you do 75 straight days of 5 critical tasks. And it really, I think there goes back into Professor Hembrick's neuroplasticity because ever since then, it's nothing to me to wake up this early. It's life, it's just regular everyday life. I'm no longer really dragging myself out of bed much. I have more energy. I hit my jobs at work way harder with way more drive and motivation. It really, really primes me for work when I get into this, when I stay consistent with my morning routine.
That's cool. I love that. I'm going to take some notes from that. I'm going to start doing that. I've been complaining about coming home and not wanting to work out at the end of the day. I like just kind of challenging yourself and getting up a little bit earlier. Walker, what do you think?
Yeah, no, and I think yours and ours are very similar. We talked about this before, but just having that time to focus your day. I love getting in the Word and prayer and worship, and for me it focuses me. It helps me realize again that it's not about me. Life is a lot bigger than yourself or myself or any of us combined. But I think the key word here is just having a routine. And we kind of talked about it already, but having something that you do every day. I mean, it's a human nature thing. we don't like change. Humans don't like change. I don't care who you are. Even if you're like, well, I move all the time, I love change. No, you don't. People don't like change. You can do it, but it's having a routine in your life sets yourself up for success. Because if you wake up at 6:15 and then 3:45 and then 8 o'clock and then 7
Right.
and then 1, if you're doing something different every day, like that's going to drive you nuts, and you might not see the effects of it until later. But when you're not in a good headspace, when your life's in a downward spiral, when your relationships are struggling, like a lot of, not all of it, some of it's personal, but a lot of it can be corrected by having a routine, by having something you do every day. So, I mean, I would challenge anyone to just find something. It doesn't have to be ours, but something that you do every day that kind of levels you out, sets you up for success, helps your mind, spirit, body, if you want to do it, that way. But like, have something like Rene said. I mean, I love working out in the mornings, and I'll be honest, I've gotten away from that. I've started. I do it in the mornings. With a group that we talked about beforehand. But for a while, it would be every single day at exactly the same time. And when I did that, I was like, man, this is awesome. I feel great. But there's a responsibility to it, because you have to go to sleep sooner and you have to get things done in order to have that routine available. So you have to be more efficient throughout the day, which it takes a while. It might take you a few weeks to really get into it and go, but once you get going, man, it is awesome. It's really good.
I love that. What do you think, Mr. Jesse?
Oh man. So as it relates to neuroplasticity and prayer and these workouts, so I'm going to go a little, rein me in when I get too far out.
Okay.
We all have.
You're too far out. That's good.
Too far out. I mean,
Okay.
Come back.
We all kind of have this self-talk, right? This soundtrack that we play on loop over and over and over again. And so this is really for people that maybe don't subscribe to prayer. And also for people that do. Like if I'm always replaying my shortcomings and my deficiencies, those kind of count as prayers. And it's reinforcing what I believe and how I will respond, right? My thoughts are way more powerful than my words are. And the more I work those thoughts out, whichever thoughts they are, the stronger the direction they're going to take me in. And so with that, as it relates to neuroplasticity, I can change my thoughts, my thinking, my decision making, and I can be deliberate about it. So setting things up to create those conditions so that I can shift my thinking, I can shift the soundtrack is important. So physical space. So my current routine, because it changes over time, my current routine, I get up about 4 o'clock in the morning, unless I have call with Jen and Adam, then I get up at 3:58. And I run, there's a prayer that I say every morning to reset my mind. I will check whatever social media post I made to make sure I'm interacting with the audience, because I'm a social media mogul and that's a responsibility. or I'll make a new post. Once I do that, then I sit down and I'll journal or have coffee with myself. Princess Kim White gave me that practice. So I'll journal for an hour, and that helps me. It does a few things. It helps me get clear on what happened yesterday, or maybe sometimes it's free form and what I want to see in the future, but it centers me and helps me come back. That's an hour. Then I'll check the post and interact. And then I'll get some exercise in, take a shower, get ready, check the post again and interact and go off. That's the cycle. And kind of like Rene said, when I do that, the exercise, the journaling, the prayer, and the reboot on my head, and I'm going to share what I say to myself. All of that gets me set up to go into the next day and be on. When I don't do those things, I feel it, man. I'm whiz bangy, anything distracts me. And I'm just I'm not trucking like I need to.
Right.
And so one of the things the neuroplasticity, the prayer, the thing that I'm doing to change my thinking or get those micro tears to build a greater strength is this. And this one, I know there's a bunch of people on this call right now that are going to benefit from this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is it. I say, be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, and think about what things would be like if you believed in you the way you help others believe in themselves.
That's good. That's good.
Like Kirby played a big role in that coming out. She asked a question and it forced me to think about things differently. And then I'm like, here I am talking all this positivity, and I'm kicking myself in the teeth every morning. What if I don't kick myself in the teeth? And what do I need to do to change that? And so it's every morning I run that through my mind, or I'll say it out loud, so that I can start embracing, like Jennifer says, owning my impact. Right. Because when I come from that place, I am on solid ground. And if I'm on solid ground and somebody needs solid ground to hang on to, I am better prepared to serve them.
That's right. That's good. I like that. You set that up well, because I mean, again, regardless of what you believe, having this morning routine, it's benefit for you to help other people. And that's what it's about. If you can help people and show up as your best self and walk through it, then that's great. Because like, again, we're not all going to agree on everything we do, but if we can come to the fact that I'm going to show up as my best self so I can serve other people, boom, we're already going in the right direction. So the last one, we had a lot of great comments, and I'm not gonna be able to get to them, but we're running out of time. I want to get through it. I'm gonna speak. We slowed down, so now we're about to go fast. All right. So this last one is choosing to lead up. And where are my notes? Because I forgot what I said for it. Let me see really quickly. Maybe it's over here. So choosing to lead up. I put that, or I wrote down my thoughts behind it was, takes a tremendous amount of humility and patience. And so my thoughts behind that really quickly was, my aunt always used to tell me, there's a time in my life I went to go have an internship with a company that was close to where she lives. So I got to live with her. She poured into me that summer, and she talked about, Davis, you can go lead up to that superintendent. You can go lead up to that carpenter. You can go lead up to people. I'm like, what are you talking about? What does leading up mean? I mean, are you crazy? Like she's never told me what it was. She allowed me to go find it and to go search that for people. But what she talked about was, takes humility and patience, because if you can show up like we did, having this routine, but also if you can show up with humility and patience and know that the person ahead of you, in that, just in a title type position way, they already know, they probably have more knowledge in this area. They probably are pretty set in their ways in this certain area. But if you can show up and choose to lead up, take humility, take patience, and show action of what you're trying to teach them, they're going to respect you a lot more. So instead of going to my superintendent day one, don't know him, first time I'm on the job set, and telling him my thoughts of what I think needs to be right and challenging him in every direction that he doesn't like, I'm going to go earn the right to speak to him. I'm going to go show up every day 30 minutes early, which is really on time in my opinion, but show up 30 minutes early and get there and just ask questions. I'm actually, just to share really quickly, I'm actually writing something right now of talking about earning your superintendent's trust, because over this past year, I have earned my superintendent's trust because just this guy that's, in his late 60s that, at the beginning, if I'm going to be completely honest, and I've said this to him, like, I didn't agree with everything that he did or the way he did it, but now I've learned how to navigate that relationship with him. Just a great guy now that I understand. But I'm writing something. I'm excited to get that out. But earning his trust and showing him that I can show up, and regardless if I get it right all the time, I'm going to take it. I'm willing to walk through it. I'm willing to lead up to him, because I've come in the office early, spent time asking, hey, what's your family life like? What's some of the things that you've gone through that's been tough in this industry? The stuff he talks about, man, I've missed holidays. I've missed birthdays. I've missed seeing my family grow. I've been traveling on the road since he was 18, and he's in his 60s now.
Wow.
He hasn't been home 1 year. And so I'm just like, man, you've been through a lot in that of itself. I know I'm kind of navigating this to superintendent and kind of my own life, but choosing to lead up, it takes humility, it takes patience, and it takes knowing that that person probably has a different mindset than you, a different output, a different way to do it, but you're going to choose to lead up and be graceful, and you're going to earn the right to speak to them. And after you earn the right to speak to them, they still may not. Okay, I'm going to change it to go exactly to your viewpoint. But hey, I've earned the right to speak to him, and he heard me out. He listened, and that's how you start that conversation, that relationship, the stuff we're talking about. This is how you tie it into defining relationships in construction, because we're trying to go about it that way. So I know, again, it took a lot for me to get there, but what do you think? How do you guys choose to lead up?
Oh, I love this question too. So, one of my, and I'll try to, make it lean. So, one of my favorite, uh, sarcastically favorite conversations I have with people who are disgruntled, they'll say something like, well, our company, they just want yes men, and they want you to take orders and say yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, I think Jesse called it being a bobblehead. You just say yep, and that's what the
Right.
company wants. And if you
Right.
don't do it that way, you have a target on your back.
Right.
And my counter to that is, okay, so how first, maybe there are people in the organization that may actually want that, for you to just say yes to their ideas, and they want you to just follow it. There exist people like that anywhere you go, right? But it doesn't mean the whole organization is like that. So first, come from a space of grace. Give them grace too. Give them a chance to show you that this leader is not like that. This leader doesn't want just a bobblehead or anything like that. Just because X leader did that doesn't mean this guy's like that,
Okay.
or this girl's like that,
That's good.
or whatever. Give people a chance, right? Even your leaders, give them a chance to lead you in the way you want to be leaded.
I like
Give
that.
them that chance. And then, on top of that, okay, so now that you've given them a chance and forgiven the organization for asking for bobbleheads, right? Now come from a space of humility. So if you come around saying like, yeah, your idea is dumb, my idea is better because I actually do the work, and your idea was wrong and all this, nobody wants to receive that. Think about somebody telling you your idea is wrong and it's dumb, it doesn't work, let's do my idea. You don't like that either. So if you come from a space of humility, people, even leaders, are more willing to give you the time of day. And I feel like I've had great experiences in my company where I came from a space of humility, bringing an idea to a leader or somebody way higher than me, and it actually gets into play because I actually came and I came and I presented the idea as just an idea, not this is the way, because I know and you don't.
Right.
And
Good.
I've had great results like that.
Good job, Renee. Dude, that was
All right,
awesome.
let's close it down after that one.
All right. He wants to follow that up.
No, I'll go. Renee, I can't say any better than that. But I mean, I think one thing of choosing to lead up is an aspect of that is how do you add value to those who you're trying to lead up to? Because it's the same thing with what Davis was saying. By earning that trust, by leading up, by not being a bobblehead, you do have to add value in some way that people start to recognize, okay, cool, like this guy does have value, this guy does kind of know a little bit about what he's talking about. One of the things that meant a lot to me is at least some of the people in my organization know that everyone, no matter how old you are, everyone does have something to add. We were on site, and I've been on site a little bit more than I guess someone straight coming out of college, green-wise, through internships and everything else, and just love construction, so try to learn. But one of my PMs was like, he's been in the process side of things a lot, and so we were looking at tilt-up panels and everything else. He's like, well, how do they do this? I'm like, oh, you're asking me a question of how they do something? That's pretty cool, because it's like I get to show my experience and my knowledge and help add value or help lead up in a sense, I guess you could say, of my PM and help expand their knowledge and things, which meant a lot to me, that they would ask, a question of, you're a young gun, you don't really know what you're doing coming into it, but I want to know your knowledge. How can you tell me how this works? How do they do this? Because I don't know. I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome.
It's a good leader.
But really, that's to me, you have to, leading up, I guess you could say you can also lead from behind too, and not always have to be the first.
That's right.
I saw one thing, it was like about wolves. I don't know if it's true or not. I thought it was pretty cool though. But it's like they had a line of wolves, and it was like the older guys were in the front, the middle, the kind of young guns, and like female wolves were in the middle, and then like the alpha wolf was at the very end. And he made sure everyone got there. He wasn't the first one to get there and left everyone behind. So I think there's a lot of ways you could go with it. It's like lead from behind, make sure everyone gets there, make sure everyone's doing their job, and even and then adding value to those who are above you, ahead of you, and below you is always a good way to be a leader overall.
That's good. I like it. Silver Fox, what do you think?
Yeah, so leading up, that's been a lot of lessons I've learned along the way. And Rene, nailed it, right? When you do it with humility, you'll definitely be more effective, especially when you don't have like the years, the experience, the authority, the influence. You gotta have some humility. Now, there's a few things that I've learned that are like critically important. And Rene knows, y'all have heard me say bobbleheads. I think that is the absolute worst situation for any leader to be in, or any just human being. Right? If you surround yourself with bobbleheads, people that are going to fill you with sympathy.
Right.
You can stay where you're at.
Right.
Now, I think as I've progressed in my career, an observation that nobody tells you about, right? Like that you're going to be a leader and it's your salary and wow, all this amazing things. Nobody tells you that as you progress through that organizational chart, that your peers get fewer and fewer and fewer. So there are fewer people to vent with. And the other people, the rest of, the people that are in your charge that you're responsible for, they want to get ahead as well. And so now there's a little problem there, because people will polish up problems or put glitter on poo, to steal Jennifer's thing, and serve it up to their leader because they want to come across as successful or, performing well. And it's very easy to get blinded by these things when you're in that leadership role. So I'm getting there. So what's the value of leading up? If I own my responsibility as a team player, and part of my responsibility is surfacing problems, telling the leader that's glitter, that's not real, that's a polished turd right there, it's actually stinkier than what you think it is. I better serve that leader. I better serve the group and my peers. Now, that's like the really nice thing. I don't know why, but I have this thing within me, and I've had it ever since, I think, third grade. I have very high expectations of people that are in authority and in responsibility. Like if your name or your title has the word manager in it, or supervisor, like I'm sorry, but I don't have, like, I have like negative sympathy for you. You have to perform, you have a responsibility to develop the capabilities of the people in your charge, period. And there's two buckets of skills. I used to classify people here, but it was an incorrect classification. There are managerial skills and there are leadership skills. And when there's a person in authority and with tremendous responsibility, because we know people that are in leadership roles, they affect people's careers and lives. That is a serious, serious charge. And so if you're in this role and your managerial skills are really great, but your leadership skills are down here, right? You're a bobblehead that goes to the table and says, oh yeah, great idea, I like that. I'm going to get you. And so as it comes to leading up, as I've come through my career, I could not ignore those folks with the position of influence and responsibility that had skill sets that were lopsided in managerial and low in leadership. And so I took it as my responsibility to say, hey, you got a booger on your face and we need to do something about that.
Right.
It's not comfortable, but it has served me well in my life.
Yeah,
That's really
I
good.
think about that. I think that's cool. And in the meantime, y'all kept mentioning bobblehead. I was going, but I kept, I was like, because I have to realize how much I'm disagreeing. But that was a great point because it's so true. I never thought about it that way. I don't know if I have any managerial skills, but I tend to think I have great leadership skills, and I try to value people. And you're right. How you treat people if you're in leadership. I mean, I think I'm still probably the lowest of low when I think of someone at my title on AFM, but hey, it's an assistant field manager. And so I have the direct impact of how do I treat temporary laborers when they come out? How do I treat them? Do I treat them with value? Do I try to teach them something? Do I try to give them a bigger picture instead of just telling them to go and do something over here? Or do I try to teach them and add value to, hey, man, you can work out of this. You can continue to grow in construction. Look, you see all these different trades. You can come into one of these trades. You can work a different job and grow from that. And, I think that's important to just not be focused on yourself and think about, okay, I'm going to keep this guy. He's going to be my minion and he's going to stay right here. No, I want to help people and empower them so they can go to the next step and they can be far above Dave's Hamrick because I'm not that great anyway. So I love that. The acknowledge, Kirby just said it, acknowledge the booger. Good point there, Jesse. And kind of trying to wrap it up. I know we're kind of pushed it past the time. Guys, I just want to say thank you for everybody that's willing. Hopefully we added value to you guys. Please reach out to us. We have a contact at laying-foundations.com. Just email us or connect with Walker and I on LinkedIn. We welcome feedback and accountability.
For sure.
I know Walker and I sometimes hate having accountability, but it helps us, and we always are thankful for it after it. And Jesse, Renee, how do you guys want to get in contact? How do you want to get people in contact with you?
Hit me up at learningsandmissteps.com. And there's all kinds of ways. Or link. I mean, we got a bunch of folks out here on LinkedIn, but learningsandmissteps.com. Sign up for our monthly newsletter so we can I got one due this week. So we can give you all the cool stuff and all the updates.
Renee, what you got?
And I guess LinkedIn would be the best way to get in touch with me. And my Gmail account, Rene D. Duron at gmail.com is another good way too.
I didn't know Rene D. Duron. I like that how you said it like that. That's cool. But guys, I again thank you for being willing to spend time with us. Hopefully that we pushed each other in the right direction. And I just wanted to say, I've been growing from it. Having to show up and having to be willing to speak about the stuff, it's pushed me to start, looking into my life of where I'm at. And of like, okay, now you're saying it. Now let's do it. You got to live it. You can't just say it and just be return it void. You got to go out there and be that leader. And I just appreciate everyone allowing us to have the platform, allowing us to speak into your lives, and just whatever we can do to help you, feel free. We're here to help people in our industry, to help you. Whatever we can do, just reach out to us. So thank you, everyone.
Oh, peace.